Okay, one thing we didn't talk about in the last video were your sine, your cosine, and your tangent. We have, goes through an explanation in here, and you have sine, cosine, and tangent buttons on your calculator. If you look, that you can calculate each one of those fractions that we set up. If we divide it out and get a decimal for it, that's what your calculator is going to give you, is the equivalent decimal for the fraction that you set up. So if I have a degree, let's say I've got, in this case, they use a 72-degree angle, and I want the sine of that. I could set up the ratio of the opposite leg length divided by the hypotenuse, and whatever that is going to come out to, I could do that on my calculator as well. I can hit 72 sine. That fraction that you set up would have equivalent value of 0.9511. Okay, so here's your decimal. You're always going to round your decimal to the fourth place after the decimal point. Okay, there's a table that's located in your packet. If you don't have access to a calculator, you can use this table to find your sine, your cosine, and your tangent values. So again, we did a 72-degree angle. Got angles up here through 45 degrees, and then we go over here on the second half, over here on the right side of the table. Here are the rest of the degrees up through 90. So if I was looking for the sine of 72 degrees, here's my 72 degrees. The first column is sine, second column is cosine, third side is tangent. So sine is 0.9511, just same that we got on the calculator. Okay, so what we're saying is that in any right triangle, or that particular degree measure of an angle, the ratio of the side lengths is always going to divide out to be 0.9511. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is 8-2b. So we can use the sine, the cosine, and the tangent to find the missing length of the right side, or any side of a right triangle. Okay, it says, let's just go down here and look at your picture to begin with. It says in this triangle, we're working with the adjacent leg and the hypotenuse. So you're going to be given a picture of a right triangle, and you're going to be given a degree measure. And what you want to ask yourself is from that degree, from that angle, which sides have been labeled in the triangle? Okay, this side right here that is adjacent to the 39 degrees has been labeled, and the hypotenuse of the triangle. So I have adjacent and I have hypotenuse. You want to go back and think about which trig function. Is that the sine, is that the cosine, or is that the tangent that deals with adjacent and hypotenuse? And hopefully you said, well, that's the cosine. Okay, so if I say the cosine of 39 degrees, okay, that's going to equal the adjacent leg, x, over the hypotenuse. And I can set up an equation. Okay, I can go back and use that table to find the value for the cosine of 39 degrees, or I can use my calculator. And if you're going to use your calculator, you put the angle measure in first. There's 39 degrees. And then I'm just going to hit the cosine button. And I get a decimal of 0.7771. And that equals x over 26. In order to solve this, we're going to put that decimal over 1. We're going to create a fraction out of it, and we're going to just look at the cross products here. So 1 times x is just x equals, I'm going to take that decimal and I'm going to take it times 26. And I get 20.2. So this missing side length over here on the triangle is 20.2 units, and the hypotenuse is 26 units. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, we're given a right triangle here, and this time we're given this angle measure. So from that angle measure, which side lengths have been labeled in the triangle? We have opposite, the opposite leg has been labeled, and the hypotenuse has been labeled. So you think to yourself, okay, which of those trig functions, sine, cosine, or tangent, which one of those deals with opposite and hypotenuse? Okay, well that would be the sine. So I'm going to say the sine of 27 degrees is equal to the opposite leg is 43 over the hypotenuse is x. So I first set up an equation, and now I want to solve the equation to solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to put this over 1, The sine of 27, watching 27, and I hit sine, and I get a decimal of 0.4540, rounded to the fourth number after the decimal place. And if you would like, you can use that table in your packet if that's better than if you don't have access to a calculator or you'd rather use the table. The table does all the rounding for you. This is going to be over 1, and it equals 43 over x. So we're going to do the cross products. In order to solve this from chapter 7, we take the cross product. So this decimal, 0.4540 times x, equals this product, 1 times 43. Now, how do we solve for x? Hopefully you said, well, you got to divide by 0.4540. Well, x equals, if I take the number 43 and I divide it by 0.4540, I get 94.7 units. Okay, this hypotenuse length is 94.7. Okay, this is just walking you through the steps that we talked about up there. So you have a worksheet. You're going to have a side length that's labeled with a variable, and you want to either use your sine, cosine, or your tangent function to set up an equation and to solve for that missing length.